One second. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Hena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschayata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Any more videos? How about Bijal, Nehashri, Varun, Aditya? I see you. Thank you so much. Varun. Okay. Gobinda, what about you? Thank you, Gobind. That was so quick. Okay, thank you, Varun. I see you now. Okay, let's get started. As I told you, I will be revising the previous verses and we will be going through what we have learned so far. Okay, so I just want this section to be interactive from second chapter. So first chapter we will revise, and then second chapter I'll ask you question. I mean, second chapter I can just walk you through it. But first, at least the first chapter, I want you to be uh, at least thorough with the concepts. Okay. Okay. So can you tell me what are all some of the reasons for Arjuna not to fight? What were the reasons Arjuna gave? There are 5 reasons Arjuna gave.
Because Arjuna doesn't want to kill his relatives.
Yes. So Govinda, you said one. I want Arjun to say the second one. Arjun? I can't hear you, Arjun.
Passion.
Because of passion, he didn't want to fight?
No, he said compassion.
Compassion. Yes, that's good. 2 reasons.
Mataji, can I say one?
Yes.
It was because he didn't want to incur any sin.
Sin. That is right. Kesha?
Because if he kills so many soldiers, then all their wives will become a widow.
Family traditions will be lost. Yes, very good. So far, how many we have learned? So Arjun said compassion, Aditya said sins, and Keshav, he said family tradition. And what about Gobinda? What did you say?
I said you kill some. I forgot. Govinda said that it's going to be a sin to kill his relatives. Govinda said kill relatives.
Okay, so
it's going to
it's
be a sin. Govinda said that.
The same thing like what Aditya said then. Okay, another point is there will be no enjoyment. Arjuna felt there will be no enjoyment for him.
Arjuna, if he was just ruling the kingdom alone, he wouldn't have anything to do because he's alone.
Yeah. Even if he wins, then who will he share this with? There will be no relatives. So he feels, what's the point? Even if I win, I will not have anybody to share it with. So better, I don't want to fight. These are all some of the reasons. And then the 5th reason is indecision. Indecision means, I don't know. What, Varun, I don't want you to use the chat message, please. I think, we've already talked about this. No chat.
Okay? Yeah, I don't know. I think the message automatically sent or something.
You have an automatic messenger?
No.
To send messages? Okay. Anyways, so just pay attention. So there are 5 things. One is compassion, another is sins, then the family traditions will be lost, and then even if he wins, there is nobody to share it with, so he doesn't want to fight. And then the 5th reason is indecision. Okay, so these are the reasons Arjuna says. These are all very valid reasons, right? I mean, he says he's so compassionate. Why can't we be compassionate? And why not? I mean, I'm going to incur sin, so why would I want to do something that will carry sins? And then enjoyment, I mean, I'm not going to be, happy if I kill them and get the property, because there will be nobody to share it with. So why should I fight? All these seems very valid. And now in the second chapter, Krishna is going to answer all these questions. Whatever Arjuna has in terms of doubts, Krishna is going to clarify why should you fight? What is the reason for you to fight? And Krishna is going to explain to Arjuna these are all the reasons, and he's going to see if he's going to be convinced by that answers. Okay, till he is convinced, Krishna is going to keep instructing him lot of things. Are you all clear, kids? This is very important.
Yes.
And,
but you
and
could say the fifth one.
Indecision.
Indecision.
Correct.
What does that mean again?
Indecision means he doesn't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I'm so confused. My mind is so confused. I'm not in a position to take any decision on my own. That is what is indecision.
That's why he doesn't want. That's one of the reasons he doesn't want to fight.
Yes, that is also another reason. He says, I'm confused. I don't know what to do. I don't know what I should do. So I'm not able to decide on my own what I should do. He's kind of confused.
Indecision is when you don't know what to do, like you're confused.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm not able to decide. So there is an elective. Say in your class, you have elective, science elective or math elective. You have to choose one. Sometimes you can be indecisive. I don't know what to choose. Then you look at other periods and say, okay, what time does this period fall in? And what time is this? And where is my interest more? Is it in science or is it in math? And then you accordingly choose your electives, right? Sometimes you are indecisive whether to do this or not. You're confused, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we will see from second chapter what Krishna has to say. Okay, just listen very carefully. This is very important. I'm going through all the things we have taught earlier. So it's going to be kind of revision for you. Okay, I'm not going to share anything with you. Just listen to me. Okay, stop me wherever you have questions. Okay. All right. So the the first verse of second chapter. So here in this verse, Arjuna, what he is doing, so he's so emotional here. Tears are rolling from his eyes when he's practically speaking. So tears were coming out and he was lamenting and he was saying, Madhusudana, you're the Lord of Madhu. You killed the demon Madhu. Likewise, you have to destroy the demon of doubts in my mind. Like that, Arjuna was asking Krishna. And then Krishna, what does he say? Now that Arjuna, he's so thoughtful, he's in the, we can all see that he's emotional, he's not able to decide, he's indecisive. And then now, how does Krishna react? Srila Prabhupada, he says, Arjuna is thoughtful, he's saintly, he doesn't want to hurt others in these ways. That is why he's compassionate. He's talking about all the good qualities of Arjuna, Srila Prabhupada. But now he's going to talk about bodily conception, because obviously, see, whatever Arjuna is saying, it's all valid, but it's all at the level of the body. Okay. And now Krishna, he's going to talk about a level that is more than the body. That is the level, that is the spiritual level, which is talking about the soul. Now Arjuna is saying, okay, I will incur sins if I kill them. I'm very compassionate to them. So even if I kill them, I'm not going to enjoy. All these seems to be in the level of bodily conception. Okay. And so Arjuna, he's also showing bodily symptoms like lamentation, tears, compassion, everything he's showing. But these are not, people can show this for two reasons. One is you can cry for Krishna, or you can cry thinking about your situation. What would be better, to cry for Krishna or cry for your own?
Try Krishna.
So that is what. So one is in the bodily concept, meaning if you cry for yourself, you're just crying, lamenting about your body. You just, somebody hurt you and so it's paining and so you're crying. So, but instead, if you direct the cry towards Krishna, it becomes spiritual. Well, how do you direct towards Krishna? Krishna, please take me out of this ignorance and take me back home, back to Godhead. Like that, if you start to pray, then it becomes spiritual. Okay, so this is two things. You the same cry, it can be on the bodily concept or it can be on the spiritual platform. It depends on how you view that problem. Okay, whenever there is problem, if we start to pray to Krishna, then you are on the spiritual platform. The same thing when you just start to cry, why me, why me, why this person did it to me, why that person did it to me. See, he's a bad guy, that is why he did it to me. All these are all bodily concepts. There is no use and no point in talking about those things. Krishna, he is the cause of all causes. If something were to happen, you should think that, oh, it is all because I did something wrong in the past. That is why I'm getting this action. There is no point of blaming anyone. That should be the attitude. Okay. Are you clear with this? What is bodily concept and what is?
Mataji,
Yes.
you could say that in the middle, what you say in the first in the chapter 2, text 1, like when Arjuna doesn't want to kill his relatives, you could say what is next.
Yeah, so he was practically crying now. Arjuna, I mean, he was crying to Krishna and he's saying, Krishna, Krishna, please just help me clear my doubts.
Wasn't Arjuna doing all these like foolish acts, you can call them? Wasn't he doing this just so we could learn what to do?
Yes, so he was put into illusion by Krishna so that we could learn Bhagavad Gita through him. So it is more for us than for him. He was put into that situation. He was put into the span. I mean, he was put into illusion through Yoga Moya so that because he is a pure devotee of the Lord already. He knows the answers for everything. But he is asking these questions because he is being put into that illusion by Krishna. Krishna's will, this happened, and it is all for us to learn what are the lessons from Bhagavad Gita. If you learn Bhagavad Gita and if you start applying that in your life, then our life will be so successful and Krishna will be so pleased. Okay, and that is the reason why we have to learn the slokas. So whenever we get angry, we have to think about that sloka, or whenever something, say for example, at the time of death we have to think about Krishna, so immediately that sloka has to come into our mind. That is the reason why we are learning the slokas and memorizing the slokas also. Okay, so now we will move on. So how can one be compassionate to himself? He can be compassionate by taking out the ignorance. How he can be compassionate? If you want to be compassionate towards yourself, then you have to start realizing yourself, which is self-realization. And how can you self-realize yourself? Through Bhagavad Gita. So this is how you show compassion to yourself.
Can you self-realize yourself by any scriptures?
Yes, by scriptures you are able to realize who you are. Who are you? You are the soul. But what does it mean? I am the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord. How do you get that feeling? You are going to get that feeling when you start learning and when you start to hear Harikatha and by attentive chanting. These are the and by Vaishnava Seva. The three ways. There are so many ways. Of course, the 9 processes of devotional service all leads to self-realization. But the 3 things that you can do at your age is, of course, you can sing in the Kirtan, you can do Vaishnava Seva, helping the Vaishnavas with whatever they want. Even your parents, if you serve them, that is Vaishnava Seva. If you are answering the questions in the class, that is also Vaishnava Seva, because you are helping the other classmates of yours in the class, right? If I'm asking you questions and
you're helping. Like
Yeah.
you have a question you don't understand, someone, a children could help you.
Yes, they could help you out, and that way they are doing seva for you. And you also start to, oh, that person is that kid is helping me, and he's such a nice boy. Then you start to appreciate him. So this Vaishnava seva is nothing but, so when you are serving the Vaishnavas, see for example, I am teaching the class. When I'm teaching the class for all you students, if you are happy, your parents will be happy, and your parents will say, oh, Radhika Mataji and Madhavi Mataji, they are all helping the kids. So why don't we bless them? Like that, they will shower the blessings upon us. And this pleases Krishna. Krishna, he will be pleased by the act of Vaishnavas becoming pleased. And in turn, he will give you mercy. What is mercy now? Mercy translates to, what is mercy? What does it translate to? What do you mean you get Krishna's mercy? What happens then when you get Krishna's mercy?
Means like Krishna's mercy means like you're gonna get liberated and you're a devotee of him and you serve him and all that.
Correct, correct. So in that, when it can be any form of mercy. Okay, sometimes Krishna, he will give you knowledge. Sometimes he will make you feel detached to the material things. That way you can concentrate on him more. Then he will give you more opportunities for Vaishnava Seva. It can be anything. Or he will take off some of the bad habits that you have in you, that you don't want in you, because you are not able to serve properly because of those bad habits. So all this is mercy of Krishna. And how do we get that mercy? Through attentive chanting, through Vaishnava Seva, and
reading the scriptures.
Reading the scriptures, Shravanam, Kirtanam, of course, the 9 processes of devotion.
Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmani, Vedanam.
Very good.
Surrender to everything.
Correct, correct. So when you are involved, see, even attentive listening in this class.
You have to surrender everything. You have to give it up. You have to give it to Krishna, and then you have to surrender yourself to Krishna.
Correct. What do you mean?
You want to give
ourselves to Krishna? I told you in the last class, what does surrender mean? There are 2 things I wanted you to remember with the process of surrender. What do you mean I surrender to Krishna?
Can I tell?
Yes, yes, go ahead. I'm not able to see. Yeah, go ahead.
Do things that are favorable for Krishna and don't do the things that are not favorable for Krishna.
This is attentive listening. Very good, Keshav. Yes, this is exactly what surrender is. There are, of course,
Mataji, I know that. I know that. Really.
You also know that. Very good.
To not give anything to not bad stuff to Krishna, but give good stuff.
No, not that. Doing things that are favorable for Krishna consciousness.
Doing things like chanting, kirtan and all that.
Correct, correct. And then even you're obeying the elders, listening to the class, all this is pleasing Krishna. So whatever is going to take you close to Krishna, you have to do all that. When you know you don't want to do those things that are taking you away from Krishna, even after the fact, if you realize that, say sorry to that person. If you did something wrong, say for example, your mother, she wanted you to do something, but you just became angry with her, then immediately go and say sorry to your parents. That act also pleases Krishna. If by chance, because of your nature, you did some mistake, then no problem. Just go back and say sorry to that person. Okay, that way it will help us also, because we are all.
Yeah. What is mercy again?
Mercy is, it can be anything. Krishna's mercy can be anything. It can be
like you said,
you getting more opportunities to do Vaishnava Seva, or Krishna, he could remove your bad habits, make you a good person, or he can make you progress in devotional service by giving you knowledge, or it can be, he can take off the anarthas that you have, greed, anger, lust, anything, whatever Krishna's mercy is all these. It can be anything. He can surprise you with anything.
I was asking what attentive listening, serving Vaishnavas. What's the last one?
Oh, okay. So attentive listening, chanting. Chanting is very important. Attentively chanting, attentively listening, and the 9 processes of devotional service, including Vaishnava Seva, all this will take you closer to Krishna.
Okay.
Yes.
If you're serving devotees by giving them knowledge of Bhagavad Gita for everyone in this class, so is that kind of like surrendering to Krishna, or do you get a good karma for doing that?
See, we devotees, we don't think about karma. Karma, so we are doing everything to please the Lord. That should be our mentality. Krishna will be pleased with this act. Why Krishna will be pleased by this act? Because all the Vaishnavas, see your parents or you yourself, Keshav may say, okay, he may say to his parents, okay, I like Mataji's class. And then his parents, he may just bless me, right? I mean, indirectly, it will come to me as a blessing. And that way I get mercy of the Vaishnavas and mercy of the Krishna. Whenever Vaishnavas are pleased, Krishna will be very pleased. Are you all clear, kids? How this comes? So when I ask you questions, when you answer, it is benefiting other kids. This way, you are also doing Vaishnava Seva. And whenever I ask you, oh, raise your hands, and somebody spontaneously answers, Krishna will be pleased. And whenever somebody is asking you to sing a kirtan, immediately you do it. That is Vaishnava Seva. All this are going to get closer to Krishna. Okay, kids? That is why we should never ever reject any kind of opportunity that comes to us. It's very important that we follow through it. Because it is all going to go, because this process of devotional service is so rare. And since we have it, we should make the best use of it. Is it clear, kids?
Yes.
Okay. So now, so there is going to be one example that I'm going to quote. Okay. Say, for example, the person is coughing. This person is coughing, and somebody wants to go and stop his cough. So he's putting a handkerchief on his mouth and he's making him stop. He's making the cough he's just stuffing the handkerchief to that person so that he will not cough. This person, whatever he's doing, what he's doing out of ignorance. Because if somebody is coughing, the appropriate thing for that person to do is take them to a doctor or give some proper medicine so that his cough will stop. Instead, if you are going to put a handkerchief to stuff that person with a handkerchief so that the person will not cough, it's an act of ignorance.
That won't do anything but make it worse.
Correct. So this person is acting on the platform of ignorance. Whatever is appropriate is just giving him medicines or taking him to a doctor. That person, he is acting in the mode of goodness. But this person, he is acting in the mode of ignorance. Okay. So when we see somebody is coughing, naturally we feel compassionate for them. But the compassion has to be directed in an intelligent and a knowledgeable way, not on the ignorant way. Same way, with respect to suffering of our existence, we see that there is death, old age, destruction, and we naturally feel bad about it. But do we just keep crying because I'm going to die, or are we going to direct it to get out of our ignorance and surrender to the Lord, so that way we don't worry about birth, death, old age, and what is that?
We should get out of our ignorance and passion mode and then surrender ourselves to Krishna.
Correct. So that is what Srila Prabhupada is saying, that we have to direct our compassion in a proper, intelligent way. Otherwise, there is no point. Otherwise, we will still be in the platform of ignorance, and there is no point. There will be miseries, and you will keep on having miseries, and you will keep crying about it. Unless we direct our compassion in a knowledgeable way, not on an ignorant way, we will keep suffering. What is that you have to direct the compassion in a knowledgeable way mean? That means, say for example, the person is suffering. When the person is suffering, what is the reason for his suffering? Because he is identifying himself with the body. I am there, I identify with the body. Meaning, if something happens to me, if something happens to my body, I'm thinking it's happening to me, because the soul as such doesn't get disturbed. As I told you, it is Sachidanand, meaning it is full of knowledge, full of happiness, and full of bliss. Eternity, full of eternity. So in that way, the soul is not affected by anything, but this soul is covered by ignorance. Because of that covering
of ignorance, but the another soul is covered with goodness.
No, Gobind. So what happens is, the soul, because of our ignorance, that is why we are identifying ourselves as body. If the ignorance is removed, then we will slowly, we will start to realize that we are the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord. Till that time, we will keep associating with ourselves with the body. If somebody does something to us, we will start grudging against that person. We will say, how can he do this? It is only because of him the things have happened. I am not responsible. I'm not responsible for what had happened. All this is because we identify ourselves with the body. We think we are the body, and sometimes we identify with the mind too. The mind, it will say, oh, this person, say for example, Rishikesh. I believe nobody is here named Rishikesh, right? So this person, Rishikesh, is there and he seems like a bad guy to me. He's always finding faults with me. I'm not going to allow him to progress in his life. Then you start plotting plans against his, yeah, you just start to think bad for him. All this is because we identify, we think we are the mind. The mind is telling that this person is bad, and because of that we act in a certain way. So we identify with ourselves with a mind, or we identify with a body.
Mataji, we should not let the mind control us.
Correct. We should, the intelligence should control the mind, but the intelligence has to be coming from the sadhu, shastra, and guru. The scriptures, the scriptural intelligence is what I'm talking about. We have two kinds of intelligence. One is the material intelligence, another is the spiritual intelligence. Material intelligence is about, okay, did Aditya get good marks in math? Did Aditya do well in Spanish or French, whatever that language is? So then the spiritual intelligence is there. Then the spiritual intelligence is where we would say, oh, Govinda, he knows the scriptures. He is able to correlate and practically apply the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. Then that is spiritual intelligence. So when the intelligence is directed by Guru, Sadhu, and Shastras, that is spiritual intelligence. The spiritual intelligence has to control the mind. The mind has to control the senses. The senses has to control the sense objects. This is the process. But we are being controlled in the opposite way. Whenever we see a sense object, our senses are automatically attracted. We go towards it. Say, for example, there is a YouTube channel and you are very addicted to that YouTube channel. Without you realizing, our mind takes you there because there is iPad with you, or there is a laptop. You immediately go into that and get succumbed. See how the sense objects are controlling the senses, and how your mind is then directing you to do all these bad things which are not good for your Krishna consciousness, which will take you away from Krishna, because slowly your intelligence is getting polluted through this process. This is how we succumb ourselves to the material world. There are so many things that are tempting. So it is better for us to refrain from those sense objects. First of all, don't go near the sense object. If it is tempting, involve yourself in various other activities. So you keep a lot of Krishna. So watch Krishna conscious dramas. There are so many things that are pleasing to Krishna, right? Even in the YouTube. YouTube has bad stuff and good stuff. When you have the right intelligence, you will be able to distinguish the bad from the good. You know a person, say for example, there is a friend in your class, he is not, he has very bad intentions. So it's better to avoid him. So we have to discriminate and we have to avoid the things that are not favorable for Krishna consciousness. So the more we are in the platform of goodness, the more we will be able to go beyond the mode of goodness. That is where our target should be. But still, if you are wanting to go and get attracted to the sense objects and be wasting your time in so many unwanted things, that is not going to help you. Okay, that is where Krishna says you have to use your knowledge. That is the spiritual intelligence, which is very, very important. And when you learn the scriptures, the spiritual intelligence becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. And then you will say, oh, Amma, even if your parents do something wrong, you will say.
And then once your spiritual intelligence gets to like the fullest, then you will realize, and then you will surrender to Krishna and go back to Goloka Vrindavan.
Correct. That's the process. That's what we need to strive for. So avoid those things that are not favorable. Specifically, those things that are electronic gadgets are so corrupting these days. So you better stay away from that. Okay. If you are not able to do, ask your parents for help. Okay. Anyway.
What was the process of going to Goloka Vrindavan that Varun said? I didn't hear properly.
Varun, can you repeat it, baby?
Yes, okay. So I said that like once you like you do your surrender, once you like read the Vedas and all the scriptures, once you're done with all of those, then soon you will like surrender yourself to Krishna, and then after you surrender yourself, then you can go back to Goloka Vrindavan.
Yes, when you are going to follow the principles of Krishna consciousness, say whatever Srila Prabhupada has recommended, chanting minimum 16 rounds, abstaining from the 4 regulative principles, and following those, and being always in touch with Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, then what happens? Oh, Krishna, he'll slowly be pleased with you. But we should be very careful about aparat. I told you, right? Whenever you are going to displease the Vaishnava, Krishna is not going to like that. That is something we have to be really careful about. Okay. Other than that, if you follow through these process, he will definitely take you back home. Okay, so there are some specific causes for suffering right now which do need to be dealt with. But beyond that, person is fundamentally suffering because of ignorance of the soul. So the soul has to be, the ignorance has to be countered. And that way, ignorance is countered, he becomes self-realized. So the way we show compassion to ourselves is by self-realization. That is, when we start chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, we are compassionate to ourselves and compassionate to the others also. Okay, so how do we show our compassion to the others? By giving them scriptural knowledge, because you are directly talking about Krishna, you are pleasing Krishna. So this compassionate, showing compassion, instead of crying for them, you better do something useful, like talk to them about Krishna, talk to them about the supreme person, because they have to come out of the ignorance. By showing this act, you are compassionate to others. Okay, you're compassionate to yourself by chanting, by doing all the 9 processes of devotional service. That is how you direct your compassion, Arjuna. This is what he is saying. When Arjuna is talking about compassion, Krishna is saying that how you direct your compassion to, how do you show compassion to yourself? By chanting and following the 9 processes of devotional service, you show compassion to yourself. How do you show compassion to others? You show compassion to others by giving them knowledge about the scriptures.
Giving them knowledge about Krishna and all of the things related to the Supreme Lord.
Correct. And that way they will come out of the ignorance and you will also come out of the ignorance. So because the ignorance about Krishna is the cause of all miseries. We saw that, right? There are 3 kinds of material miseries and 1 real misery. What is that real misery? The real misery is ignorance about Krishna. Correct. Very good. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to look at you. Okay. What did you say? Who said? What is the real misery?
The real misery is forgetting Krishna.
Correct. The real misery is forgetting Krishna. And that is the reason if we have to be compassionate to ourselves, we should remember Krishna. How can we remember Krishna?
Mataji, it's kind of like what happened in the Ajamil story. Like when he got like intoxicated, he completely forgot about Krishna.
Correct. He forgot about, he forget because he was a very good boy to start off with. He was he was into Krishna consciousness. He used to do a lot of rituals, sacrifices and all that. And because of that only, he was able to remember Krishna, right? When he was, somehow he remembered Krishna, meaning even though his son was named Narayana, indirectly he was calling Krishna. And since he was indirectly calling Krishna, the Vishnu Tutas, they came to rescue him. After that, he took up the process very seriously, right?
Mataji, what does it mean to forget Krishna?
So what does it mean to forget Krishna? Means, so you will be involved in the acts that turn you away from Krishna. Say for example, so I see some of you have turned off your videos. Can you turn it back again, kids? I don't hear from you also. See, I see some 6 of them are turning on their videos. Yash, you had it in the beginning, but you turned off now. Aditya, Kushi and Ovi, please turn it on, kids. This is a very, very interactive session. So I want to see you all because that way we will have the mutual exchange, right? Okay. So what is turning away from Krishna? Doing things that are not favorable. Okay. So when
like getting intoxicated.
Yeah, whenever you are not following the regulative principles, Krishna is not going to be happy. So you are turning away from Krishna.
Like,
When you are eating
no
meat,
gambling
that
or
is,
anything. No
yeah,
meat eating.
even when you are playing YouTube videos, YouTube watching other YouTube channels, that's not pleasing Krishna. That time you are turning away from Krishna. And you think, I am the enjoyer. I want to enjoy. I want to go to a restaurant, eat nicely. That is all turning away from Krishna. Okay, whenever even see, for example, Prahalad, he was being taught so many bad things. I mean, so many things about not about Krishna, but all just about economics, politics, and so on and so forth. But that time also, his mind was always on Krishna.
And then
He never turned away from Krishna, even during that situation. Imagine you are put up in a situation.
Tried killing Prahlad, and then it didn't work because he always thought about Krishna.
What did you say? I just missed you. I'm sorry.
I said since Prahlad knew everything about Krishna, even when Hiranyakashipu, when he tried killing Prahlad, he didn't kill him because he was thinking about Krishna the entire time, and Krishna was not going to let that happen.
Yeah, Krishna protected him at all times. He was because his remembrance, it was so spontaneous. For us it is so conscious, right? I mean, for him it was so spontaneous, meaning it will come to him automatically. He doesn't, I mean, it's always there in him, ingrained in him. But for us, we have to, oh, we should think about Krishna now, like that. We have to think, tell our mind to do things so that we can think about Krishna. But for him, it is so spontaneous. He naturally does it, because it's like you naturally brush your teeth. You spontaneously brush your teeth every day. Like that, for him, remembrance is always there. He cannot forget Krishna. The gopis of Vrindavan, they are also so like that.
The gopis even asked, why do we blink even that one fraction of a millisecond? They couldn't stand not looking at Krishna.
Very good point. Yes. So those are all the ways which means you are turning towards Krishna. And are you clear? Whoever asked the question.
Me.
Yeah, Keshav, are you clear, Keshav?
I didn't ask the question.
Okay.
Nehashri.
Nehashri. Okay, Nehashri. Okay, are you clear, Neha?
Yes, Mataji.
Good job. So now Sanjaya, he is indicating all this to Dhritarashtra. Okay, now Sanjaya is given the vision to see what is happening in the battle of Kurukshetra, and he is able to visualize and he is able to then say to Lord, Dhritarashtra about what is happening. He is saying that, say, if I say this Arjuna is there, he has indecision in his mind. I mean, he is so indecisive right now, but Krishna, he is going to overcome his delusion and he is going to kill the doubt that Arjuna has. Like that, he says. Yes, Varun? Hare Krishna. Varun, do you have a question?
I have a question.
Go ahead. Whoever has a question.
It's me, Keshav.
Nice question.
Vyasadeva wrote the Bhagavad Gita, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Mataji, Vyasadeva wrote Srimad Bhagavatam, not Bhagavad Gita.
Yes, both.
What?
Yeah, because see, Vyasadeva, he happened to write Mahabharata, and after that Narada Muni came and said that you didn't write anything to glorify Krishna. Then after Narada Muni's instruction, he felt that, oh, I didn't, that is why I'm feeling sad, I didn't glorify Krishna enough. And then Bhagavatam came into picture because of Narada Muni's instruction to Vyasadeva. So Vyasadeva, he wrote Mahabharata. In Mahabharata, there is Bhagavad Gita. And he also wrote Srimad Bhagavatam at the instruction of Narada Muni.
Yeah, but Ganesh wrote Mahabharata, but Vyasadeva.
What question Keshav has, Gobind?
No, I still didn't finish my question yet.
I couldn't hear you, Keshav.
I was saying that I still didn't finish my question yet.
Yeah.
My other question was that did Vyasadeva write the
Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam after the Mahabharata or before the Mahabharata?
No, Mahabharata was written before and Bhagavatam was written later.
Mahabharata is actually basically the Bhagavad Gita.
Correct. As Krishna, we have the different kantas, right? As the war approached, Bhagavad Gita instructions were embedded in the Mahabharata.
I was not asking that which book was asking. I was asking.
Yes, Mahabharata was written before Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam was written after Mahabharata.
Asking if the Mahabharata did it, like, was it happening before Vyasadeva wrote all the books, or did it happen after?
You mean the real events? It happened before. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mataji?
Yes.
My question is that why couldn't Vasudeva, like, why didn't he write Bhagavad Gita and Mahabharata in the same book?
He did. Mahabharata is all coming, this Mahabharata comes with Bhagavad Gita only.
But then why did he make two separate books?
Bhagavad Gita is just like in Bhagavatam there is Uddhava Gita. Why is Uddhava Gita not separate? It is there in Bhagavatam, but it is
basically like Bhagavad Gita. It's a part of the Mahabharata. Right?
Correct. So it's
but then I'm confused because I'm confused because Narada Muni said that he wasn't glorifying Krishna enough, but even in the Mahabharata, there's still like a certain amount like describing Krishna, doing this, doing that, like with them worshipping Krishna.
Yeah, not in depth though. If you look at the interactions of Krishna with the devotees, we can't understand the greatness and sweetness of Krishna. So it is more so felt in Bhagavatam. If you look at Bhagavad Gita, it is philosophical instructions of Krishna to Arjuna. More so as to how we should follow our life day to day. But when you look at Bhagavatam and Bhagavatam, you're able to understand the greatness of the Lord and as well as the sweetness of the Lord. The sweetness of the Lord is seen in the Canto 10 and the greatness is seen in Cantos 1 through 9. That is greatness about Krishna, how great Krishna is. All that is seen through Bhagavatam. And in order to understand the mind of Krishna, you have to go and read Chaitanya Charitamrita. So this is how it is categorized. Okay. So let's not waste any further time on this topic. We will go on. Okay. So what happens in the second verse now? First verse, he's just Arjuna, Krishna is saying, Arjuna, you have to direct your compassion to something more intelligent and knowledgeable and not act in an ignorant way by showing compassion to wrongly directing the compassion. Okay. And how can you be compassionate yourself? You can be compassionate yourself by chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra.
You can be compassionate by talking about Krishna to anyone. You can say that you can do the Vedas and all
Not
that.
Vedas. The essence of Vedas is Srimad Bhagavatam. We don't have time to read Vedas. No.
Yeah. Yeah, so then you can chant, you can tell your friends or anyone about Krishna, and you can do kirtan and all that.
Correct. That is the way you show compassion to yourself and others. Okay. And here Krishna is addressed as Madhusudana. Why? Because he killed the demon Madhu. Likewise, now Krishna is going to kill the demon of doubts in Arjuna's mind. And that is why he is called Madhusudana. Very clear on the first verse. This is what is the essence of first verse. Yes.
So in people, I've heard some devotees say that once you read Srimad Bhagavatam, like you know everything in the world.
Correct.
Is that true?
Yes, so that is they are saying in that perspective that if you know Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita or Chaitanya Charitamrita, then you will be able to act in a certain way that will please the Vaishnavas. When it pleases the Vaishnavas, it will be like you will feel that through bliss that Krishna gives you, on the mercy that Krishna gives you. That means that you see it's okay to even let go of some of the, if you're given some material responsibilities to be fulfilled, you have to do that. But this is very important because we are suffering. Everybody needs happiness. And how do you get happiness? by knowing Krishna, by remembering Krishna. And so this is very important. Okay.
By like they say everything, like does that include like school stuff like history, math, and stuff?
No, that doesn't include. But Krishna, he will give you enough intelligence to take care of all that. When you finish your rounds, when you do take care of the required things that you are assigned, Krishna will make sure that you will not fail in those things also. Somehow he will help you to figure out those things. Okay? But this has to be given importance and priority, because what our goal in life is to go back to Krishna and please the devotees of the Lord. So this has to be given utmost importance. That is why there is a need for you to wake up half an hour early to finish your chanting or whatever that needs to be done in terms of devotional service. If you keep procrastinating, your mind will say, oh, let's do it later. Oh, let's enjoy. All that your mind will say, but don't get distracted by your mind. Okay. Anyways, second verse. Sometimes if there is, I'm going to give you an example. Okay. Say for example.
So the first, first verse was what is compassion, like what you can do, like spread Krishna, Srimad Bhagavatam, and then now we're gonna do the second verse, right?
Correct, exactly. So where we have to Arjuna, he was directing his compassion to some other things. It should not be directed towards the body. He says you just have to come out of the ignorance and direct it. Showing compassion to yourself means getting yourself involved in devotional service. That is what Krishna said, okay, to Arjuna. And now in the second verse, he's saying, say for example, I'm going to quote an example. I don't know if you're all familiar with cricket. If there is some World Cup final that is happening, and there is this last over, okay? Last over means the last ball. And this bowler has to score 6, otherwise they will lose. And now this bowler is there and he starts to tremble. Oh my God, I'm not able to put the ball. And see, he's just like acting as if he lost his control. And so at that time only you have to have strong determination to somehow score 6. But this ball,
Mataji, right? Mataji, at the end when you like normally become like super tired and all that, you should have more like faith in yourself or something.
Correct. You should have more determination to come somehow win the match, because this ball is very crucial. If you put 6, you're going to win. But if you don't put a 6er, then you're going to lose. At this time, you should have confidence and determination. Say, for example, you're going to a speech or a debate competition. And you can't just say, oh, I don't think I can win. If you're going to have this negativity within yourself, you're obviously going to fail. All you need is determination. I can do this task. And this time, this person is saying, I'm not able to put the ball. And this captain is coming and telling him, what are you doing? This is a very critical moment. You have to be cool. You can't choke like this. Like that, this captain is giving advice to this person. And likewise, Krishna, he is now telling to Arjuna, don't be a choker. This is a crisis moment. This is a pressure moment. And you have to come with your real stuff. You have to be really strong. You have to perform your duty. So this is what Krishna is saying, Arjuna. Like how we see in the World Cup match, the captain was instructing the player. Likewise, we are seeing that Krishna is instructing Arjuna. Hey, come on. Hey, don't be like this. This is a crisis moment. You have to fight. Don't choke. Don't get a label of a choker. This is not expected of you. This is not befitting for a Kshatriya. Like that he's saying. He's also saying a few more things. He's saying Aryas are those people who have a spiritual goal. And by doing this, you are not having a goal.
A spiritual goal? Wait, Mataji, what type of people have a spiritual goal?
Aryas are those who have spiritual goal.
Aryas?
Aryas. A-R-Y-A. Yes. And by doing this act, you're not an Arya. Okay, you're unbecoming of an Arya. It is not auspicious for you to do this. And then he says, even in this world, it will not bring fame to you. It is going to only get you infamy if you are performing this act. Okay, so there are some things that he gives advice. He's saying, see, it's not worthy of an Aryan to do this. It is, it's not auspicious. It is not going to take you to an auspicious destination, because by doing, Kshatriyas have to fight, and if they fight in the war and if they win, or if they lose, what happens if they win? They get kingdom. What happens if they lose? They will go to heavenly planets. So you're going to forego going to an auspicious destination by not performing your duty. And then he says, this act is not going to get you fame. It is going to bring you infamy.
Mataji.
Yes.
Krishna said that if Arjuna is not going to do his duty, like because he's a Kshatriya, he has to fight. If he's not going to do that, Krishna said that, oh, you're going to get to more infamy than fame.
Yes, he is not going to become famous, because by performing such an act, people will call him a coward. People will call him, you are impotent to do this job. So how will he get fame? He is going to only be blamed for not performing his duty, right? He's not going to get an auspicious destination. He's not going to.
Mataji, like if like somebody is like very like good in material stuff, they may get material fame, but they're still not as good in the spiritual side.
Correct. The spiritual fame, even the spiritual fame, it is all dedicated to your Guru and Gauranga. So we don't keep anything to ourselves. But the materialist, he hankers for more and more fame. I want to become famous. I want to be seen by 1,000 people. 1,000 people should come and get signatures from me. That is what a materialist thinks. But the spiritualist, if he is a person in Krishna consciousness,
we need spiritual stuff like doing kirtan or go back to Krishna and all that.
Even if we get famous, we should dedicate it to Krishna, because we are getting that fame only because of Krishna. That is the mood of a devotee. So devotee doesn't keep anything to himself. He doesn't want fame. He doesn't want nadanam, nadanam, nasundarim, right? We see from Shishtastakam that I don't want fame, I don't want money, I don't want any followers. Okay, that is the mood of a devotee. Anyways, so now what is the word Arya? We have a word Arya that is used, and as I told you, this person, whoever is called an Arya, he knows the specific purpose of life. The most important spiritual purpose of life is to have spiritual values, and they are called Aryas. Okay. Very important to know what is the definition for the word Arya.
Mean that a person who has a goal to go back to Krishna?
Correct. He has spiritual goals, and if his spiritual goal is to go back to Krishna, then that is Arya. Arya is the person who knows what a spiritual goal is.
And Arya is a person who has a spiritual goal and no material stuff.
Correct. So this is.
What is a person called who is not an Arya?
Non-Aryans. Correct. I mean, this is just a term that we need to understand, okay? I don't think there is a specific word, okay?
Mataji, is there Kahoot today?
Yeah, so here Srila Prabhupada tells the person who does not act for the spiritual value is not an Aryan, okay? When somebody runs away, when there is criticism, he is disregarded. Crisis, whenever there is a crisis, if somebody runs away, then that person, he is disregarded, okay? He is not going to get any fame, but he is going to get infamy. Are you all clear with the second verse? We will go to the third verse, okay? In the third verse, what is...
So what is the second verse again?
The second verse is Krishna is just advising. I told you a World Cup match example. He was unable to fight.
Krishna is saying that you get like the captain comes and says, oh, this is the final moment. You have to have like faith in yourself, and like that, Krishna is saying,
correct.
Oh, you're being such like a coward. You have to be an Arya. Why are you not doing this, that, and like that, right?
Correct. Exactly. That is second verse. He's giving a pep talk to him. Okay. Pep talk means a small talk. Okay. And now the third verse, what does he say? He says, Kaibalyam. It is a very strong verbal slap for Arjuna. He slaps Kshatriya is a personification of masculinity. So for a Kshatriya to be considered important is a great insult. So we know Kshatriyas are strong people, that they are manly powers, and you know, you are behaving in a manner that you act like a coward, and this is not befitting a Kshatriya. This is not showing, it is showing that you are impotent. That is not a good idea. So here there is an example also. Say for example, a person is a topper and then somebody says you're a buff, you're a fool, you don't understand. It's then it's a quality waste. Somebody has the qualities, but when somebody says you don't have those qualities, then isn't it demeaning to that person? Say for example, Varun, you have very good qualities in you, but if you're not utilizing those qualities, then I will say you're a fool, right? You are capable, but you are not using your qualities. You are using that somewhere else in all wrong places. That is not right. So this is what Krishna is saying, Arjuna. He is saying, see, you are having these qualities, Arjuna, but you are not using it. You are not using it. So,
yeah, Mataji, like a Kshatriya has to fight, and that's like their dharma. They have to do it, and they have certain qualities that would help them in it. And somebody like he's like really good at that thing, but if he doesn't use the you know, like the his capabilities, then it's kind of useless.
Correct. That is exactly what Krishna is saying in the third verse.
That's about the second verse.
The third verse. We are coming to the third verse. In the second verse, Krishna is saying, all Krishna is saying is, hey, come on, you fight. You should fight, because in the crisis moment, you can't just go away. You can't behave like that. In the crisis moment is when you have to show all your strength and all your thing. And in that crisis moment, if you run away, that is not befitting for an Arya. Then you are not behaving like an Arya. You will be disregarded. That way, you're not even going to achieve an auspicious destination. Okay. And that way, you're not even going to get fame. He's talking everything from a material platform. I mean, see, slowly Krishna will talk to him at a higher level. Right now, it's all like he's saying auspicious destination, this, that, just to make sure that Arjuna is all convinced. Slowly, he will start to build up on this. Bhagavad Gita is not going to say all, you just do devotional service and that's about it. She will slowly build up on it, and he will help us understand why we do what we do. That is why we have 700 verses. Okay. So the third verse now, he is talking about qualities of a Kshatriya. You have strong, nice qualities, but you are not using it. Like Aditya said, it's a waste if you don't use your qualities. Like, for example, you guys will be having a lot of God-given qualities to you. And if you're not using, say, for example, you're a good singer, but when your mom says, sing in front of a kirtan, if you're just keeping your mouth quiet, what's the use? Oh, no, I have mouth pain. I'm not feeling comfortable. I don't want to do. Is that good?
No.
Yeah, no, right? That is exactly what Krishna is telling to Arjuna here. He's talking about, Arjuna, you're having these qualities, but you're not using them. So, dude, you are a coward, but you are a strong person. You're not a coward. Come on. He's inspiring again. He's inspiring Arjuna to act again. Okay.
He's trying to like get Arjuna to have trying to get confident.
Correct, exactly. Sometimes we may act in a strong way, in a dharmic way, but it may appear that it is coming against us. Okay, like in this case, Arjuna, he was very confident that he was doing the right thing. He was acting on the platform of dharma. That is what Arjuna is thinking, but it is coming across in a wrong way. Do you understand that? And Krishna, he wanted to say that you are having good qualities, but you are not ready to fight, and this is not good for you. This is not good for the Kshatriya. So you have to come on, get going. And he's trying to inspire him in this way. Okay, are you clear, kids?
Yes.
Okay, now we'll go on to the fourth verse. The fourth verse, what does it say? It's a general etiquette that superiors are not allowed to be offered even a verbal fight. Even if they are sometimes harsh in their behavior, they should not be
Mataji,
harshly
what is a
treated.
verbal fight?
Verbal fight means if your parents say something, then you counter them by saying, raising your voice by saying something against them. That is verbal fight. You're not using any of your physical things like hand or anything. You're just verbally countering them with your harsh words.
So it's
So,
hurting someone with your words?
yes, yes,
Is that good or bad?
that is bad. That is what Arjuna is saying here. He is saying, hey Krishna, see, it's a general etiquette that superiors are not allowed to be offered even a verbal fight. Even if they are sometimes harsh in their behavior, that is, if the elders are harsh in their behavior, we should not harshly treat them. That is what Dharma says. Like that, he's saying. There is a fault of repetition of addressing Krishna twice using the words Madhusudana and Arisudana. This is because Arjuna, being afflicted with grief, is unaware of the connection between. Okay. So now we will get a little bit into this. Okay. So this is Arjuna's point. Are you all clear with Arjuna's point?
Yeah.
That he is saying,
Yes.
say, there are people, I mean, there are old people. I'm not going to offer them verbal fight because that is not good. And that's not an etiquette that needs to be followed. Even if they are harsh, I'm not going to be harsh to them. Right? That is dharma. And that is the etiquette that I need to follow. Krishna, now you answer and you tell me how.
Mataji, Arjuna is doing the right thing, but at the same time the wrong thing.
Now we will understand why it is wrong. Okay. So here in this specific scenario, why it is wrong. Okay, we will understand that. Are you clear? Like, say, till I want you to be very clear from 2.1 to 2.3. This is the 2.4
Wait,
verse.
Mataji, I keep forgetting the first one. What is the first?
The first, what is the first one? Does anybody want to help Varun?
Yeah, me too. I keep forgetting the first one.
What is the first one?
I don't. Mataji, you could say the third one and the second one.
You forgot everything now. 2, 1, 2, 3.
Mataji, I forgot 1 and 3.
1 and 3. How about you? I mean, how about others? Everybody?
Oh, now I remember 3. 3
Yes.
is the one where Arjuna, where Krishna says that that you are not being an Arya, you have to
Correct.
be one. You
Correct.
have to do,
I know. But number one.
Number 1, I told you, right? Arjuna, he started to cry. He started to have tears in his eyes and he started to lament that he's indecision. I mean, he's indecisive what he needs to do.
Yeah.
And then Krishna is saying,
Mataji,
you,
now
if you
I
have to
don't know
be
how.
compassionate, it is about compassion. If you have to be compassionate, I told you about the handkerchief stuff. That person is acting in the mode of ignorance. And the person who's giving the medicine is acting in the mode of goodness. And that if you have to be compassionate to ourselves, then we have to chant the holy glories of the holy name of the Lord and be engaged in the 9 processes of devotional service. If you have to be compassionate to others, give them the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita and the scriptures. This is how you show compassion, Arjuna, and not by crying and being in the bodily concept of life. No, that's not right. Okay? Are you clear, kids? Hare Krishna?
Yeah, I'm clear now.
Yeah,
Mataji.
So we learned 3 verses. I want you to be very, very...
Mataji, we did 4.
No, this is the 4th verse I'm going to say now. Arjuna, he told that, see, there are elders. I can't be harsh to them. Even if they are harsh to me, I can't be harsh to them. That is not the etiquette.
That's Dharma.
That is about the 3rd verse or 4th verse?
This is the 4th verse, Keshav. Okay? Now the 4th verse. What does it say?
Mataji, but the fourth verse, we cannot be harsh to the relatives, but like Duryodhana harsh to the Pandavas.
Correct, exactly. We will see the reasons why Arjuna has to be harsh in this case. Okay, exactly, Gobind, you're right on target. I'm going to tell you the reason why Arjuna has to be harsh in this case. In general, of course, as kids, you have to be very, very careful with the dealings to elders and your parents. Even if they are harsh, you should not be harsh. That is the thing.
Arjuna says in the 4th verse.
Correct. So that is what Arjuna is saying in the 4th verse. But Krishna, he is going to tell us and explain us why he can why he can come, I mean, why he can, why he has to be harsh here. There is reason. So Krishna is going to now say the reason. Okay, are you clear?
What is the reason?
I will tell you. So what should I do? Actually, instead of offering them arrows, I should be offering flowers to them, flowers to the lotus feet. I should be respecting them. And he is drawing out the word Arisudana. You are the killer of demons.
What does Arisudana mean?
That means he is the killer. He is calling Krishna as killer of demons. Krishna, he's saying, Arjuna is saying, Krishna, you are only able to kill the demons. Are you going to shoot arrows at Maharaj Ugrasena, or who is your grandfather? Or are you going to shoot arrows at Sandipani Muni, who is your teacher? No, you're not going to shoot.
Mataji, Arjuna is kind of debating Krishna.
Correct. So let's see. So he is asking, so if you are, see, you are called Arisudana because you are the killer of enemies. You are not going to kill Maharaj Ugrasen, that is your grandfather, or you're not going to shoot arrows at Sandipani Muni, who is your teacher. If you would ever shoot arrows on them, you will close your demons and you become the killer of the enemies. But you are called killer of the demons. Okay. So how can I shoot arrows at my elders when you're not doing it? How can I do it? Like that he's asking. Can you understand this conversation that is happening now? You see, all Arjuna is saying is, I should be offering flowers at your lotus. I should be offering flowers to the elders. I should not be offering them arrows. I should not be shooting them with arrows. I should be respecting them. And he is calling Arjuna, you are Arisudana. You are the killer of the demons. You are not killer of the enemies. Will you be able to kill Maharaj Ugrasen, who is your grandfather? Or will you be able to kill Sandipani Muni, who is your teacher? No, he can't do that. Right? Then why are you asking me to do that when you can't do it? Can you answer me, Arjuna? Can you answer me, Krishna? Like that, Arjuna is posing questions to Krishna. So first he said, see, elders, they have to be respected even if they are harsh.
Wait, Mataji, isn't Krishna also a Kshatriya in that setting?
He is also, I mean, yes, he's in Dwaraka, right? In the Dwaraka, he was a Kshatriya.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, here in this case, he is acting like a charioteer.
Okay.
With the specific case of Mahabharata, he is acting in the platform of the
Mataji,
charioteer. The servant of the servant.
Mommy, the Dwaraka is not in anymore. It's now under the ocean.
Yes. So let's stick to this one. I will tell you the reason why he should do that. Okay. Now somebody might say, actually, yes, you have a guru, but when your guru is not acting properly, he is no longer a guru. If guru is going to come between Lord Vishnu and you, the guru should be rejected. So there is a specific instance in Bali Maharaj's case. Bali Maharaj and Sukracharya.
Bali Maharaj, since he was in the family of demons, so when Vamanadev, when he came, his guru said, "Oh no, this is the Lord. This is the Lord. He's gonna kill you and do all of that stuff." But then Bali Maharaj said, "Oh no, it is the Lord. I have to serve him." So then Vamanadev asked for 3 steps. He took 2, but then there was no more space. So then Bali Maharaj sacrificed his own life to please Krishna.
Wonderful. So his guru came in the way and he said, don't offer to the Lord. He's going to take away all your property.
Mataji,
he's going to take everything away.
Who was Bali Maharaj's guru again?
Sukracharya.
Oh yeah, Sukracharya, he's basically like a fraud guru.
No. We should not say that. He is also a very learned person. He is a priest. He is very learned, and we are not in any position to judge anybody. It is just that there is this pastime, and we are understanding through the pastime that the guru was coming in between Bali Maharaj and Vishnu. And in this case, Bali Maharaj had to please Krishna, and that is why when Bali Maharaj's instruction was not right, he ignored the instruction of Bali Maharaj, and he happened to please the Lord. Be it whatever, I give up my life, I give up my property, everything, anything is fine with me. All I want to do is please the Lord. That is Atma Nivedanam, right? One of the processes of devotion.
Surrendering to Lord.
So, yes, surrendering to the Lord. So in this case, we saw Bali Maharaj's case, okay? And then we also know a very famous episode of Draupadi. Draupadi, we know, right? Draupadi's episode, Bhishma and Drona did not come to rescue Draupadi, right? They know that they were just allowing adharma to happen. Uh, why didn't they come? And so, in spite of them not coming to help Draupadi during that situation, Arjuna is telling them, Mahabaho, they are great souls.
Which situation?
When Draupadi was brought to the court by Dushashan, she was
when she was gonna get disrobe, she like prayed to Krishna.
Yes.
So Krishna made it like unlimited.
Correct, but we have Dronacharya and Bhishma there in the court, and they did not act upon this particular scenario, right? And we are trying to understand why they did not act. Can we see that story? It's a beautiful story. I want you all to listen very carefully. Okay, this is the explanation why Krishna says you have to fight with them. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yes,
Mataji, is there a Kahoot today?
No Kahoot today, Mataji.
Okay.
Yeah, we can stop exactly in 20 minutes, Mataji. So,
Mataji, this is a revision.
Yeah, this is a revision. You should know the story. From next week, we will again go back, okay? But without understanding this, it is very difficult for you to follow along the future verses, because the second chapter has to be understood in lot of detail. Okay. Anyways, Draupadi's episode, let's see. It was very, very traumatic. We saw that Draupadi, she was, first of all, the Pandavas, they lost the whole kingdom. And then
because Shakuni cheated, because he got a very good, he know how to use, because he used a different dice.
Correct. And then they lost their kingdom, they lost themselves, and now Draupadi also, they are going to lose her. So now these, if you look at Bhishma and Drona and Vidura, they were all there in the court, but they did not act upon this particular case. At a deeper level, if we understand this, the whole pastime is to demonstrate a particular truth. What is the truth? No matter how many protectors we have in this world, in all situations, none of them will be able to protect us. Right? And in the case of Gajendra, there were so many people who are trying, so many elephants, she-elephants, all of them, they were trying to help Gajendra. But finally, it was the Lord who was able to protect. Likewise, it is to prove the fact that Krishna, he is the protector. Ultimate protector is Krishna. There are so many people who we think they will come to protect us for during our time of mishap. But none of them will protect us. It is going to be only the Supreme Lord who will protect us. It is to prove that point that this pastime has to be understood at that level. And now, for a woman to be protected by a husband, obviously Draupadi had 5 Kshatriya husbands. She could not be protected by all of them. They were all in the state of helplessness. They all could not help Draupadi. Now, Bhishma could do anything. Correct. And Bhishma, Bhishma, he was so powerful and nobody could counter him in the war. And Drona, he was a great Kshatriya teacher and he was also not able to help. So we understand that this pastime is orchestrated in such a way that the lesson taught is there is no other protector.
Krishna wanted it this way, so there's a lesson learned.
There is no other protector in this whole world than Krishna. Krishna, he is the ultimate protector. This is one lesson we learned from this pastime.
Like Gajendra, he remembered his past life. He was someone and he chanting with the flower, chanting, and then Vishnu came and helped him.
Okay. So in the next, so this is one lesson.
Why his dices listen to him?
No. We are not getting into that part. I'm going to just tell you certain things. Just listen, okay? And then you can get me the stories as far as this pastime. There is so much going on here, okay? Already I'm running out on time. Let me try to finish this particular pastime, okay? So this is one lesson. One lesson is Krishna is the ultimate protector. Then at the same time, if you look at it, Mahabharata is to be understood at various levels, they say. Why did Bhishma fight on the side of Kauravas? Because he was obviously, one reason is because he wanted to be on the side of whoever fed him, duty bound, right? It was his duty to be staying on the side of the king, whoever is ruling that time. And that is why he had to stay in the side of Kauravas, because they were the one who were the ruling kings. And And what is the lesson we learn through that? You know, even if he is a devotee, but if he is on the side of an adharma, he will be perished. That is what Krishna is teaching by having Bhishma on the side of Kauravas. Are you clear? Are you clear? Why is Bhishma
Yes,
on the
Mataji.
side of Kauravas? He was there on the side of Kauravas.
It's not cleared.
Yeah.
Mataji, you're saying that we cannot unmute our microphone. The host was not letting us unmute our microphone.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
okay.
I had muted for a few minutes
Okay.
because
okay.
Mataji was speaking. Yeah.
No problem.
And also, Mataji, your video's flashing a lot. There's like this sudden white flash coming, like 2 flashes, and
Probably
then
the sun glare.
yeah.
The sun, yeah. It's just bear with me. I don't know. Is that I don't know better or not? But I didn't close the curtain.
Different.
Okay, kids, very important. You understood that point, right? Even though Bhishma is
Mataji,
the devotee of the Lord, he was on the side of the Kauravas because to show the fact that if he is a devotee and if he is on the path of adharma, they will perish. Okay? Clear? We will move on to the next thing. And now,
Wait, so just to clarify, so Bhishma was on the side because some of the people in the Kauravas helped him, and he needed to be on the side of the current king?
Yes, he needed to be, his vow was that he will stay with whoever the current king is and he will serve them.
Mataji, when Shantanu, way back then, Bhishma, to make his father happy, he said that he made a vow to always stay on the side that the king is on.
Correct.
And at that time, Dhritarashtra was the king.
Correct. And still he has Dhritarashtra as the king, and that is why he's staying in the side of the Kauravas. Correct. And Kauravas, because what else? We understand that Bhishma was orchestrated by the Lord, and obviously to prove the fact that even if he's a devotee, if he is on that side of adharma, he's going to die or he's going to perish.
Mataji, Bhishma did not help because Krishna is the only protector. He's the only one who can help everyone.
Yes, that is the understanding. We have to learn a lesson that whoever, even we may consider that there are so many protectors for us, your mother, father, everybody. But ultimately, if you cry to Krishna, Krishna will protect you. That is the lesson. That is why if we are having any distress in life, don't waste it by simply crying. Cry to Lord. Cry to Krishna instead. That becomes transcendental.
Mataji, if you're going to cry, then you should cry for Krishna.
Correct. Okay, now, so Draupadi, how was she brought to the court? First, one of the servants, they went to Draupadi, and he was actually trembling. Oh, how can I go? This is against the act of dharma. How can I go and call Draupadi? Duryodhana is saying, go and call Draupadi now. And what is the matter? She has to be summoned to the assembly. So this person, he goes there and he was so terrified and shivering himself, and he went and told Draupadi, how can they're asking you to come to the assembly hall. Would you be able to come with me? Like that, he asked Draupadi. And Draupadi asked, what is the matter? Why should I be summoned to the assembly? And then he just told her the whole story. And then, so she asked that guy, who gambled first? And it was said that Yudhishthira gambled himself away first. And then she said, if he has gambled himself, then how he has the right to gamble me? Well, how is this possible? He has lost himself in the gamble. And how does he have the right to even gamble me? Like that, she's asking. And so he already lost himself and became a slave. How could he have gambled me? So this person, he went and told Duryodhana what Draupadi communicated. And Duryodhana is like, go and bring her now. Again, he just didn't even care. Whatever she has questions, she can come and ask in the assembly. They'll be able to answer her. But right now, I want her back in the assembly. And this person, again, he went trembling. And he said to Draupadi, I'm being asked to take you back to the court. And then she said, I'm just wearing a single cloth because I'm just having my menstrual cycle, meaning she has bleeding that is happening. and I'm not able to come now because I'm just wearing the single cloth. I can't come. And when again this person went and told Duryodhana about this, he got really angry. He said, "You're not able to do this. I'll take care of it myself. Dusashan, you go and drag her." And Dushashan, he came. He brutally dragged Draupadi onto the court. And Draupadi, looking at Dusashan coming, she got scared and she ran. And she ran to the chambers of Gandhari so Gandhari can help her. But before she could reach the chamber, Dushashan caught hold of her and she grabbed him. He grabbed her and he dragged her brutally. And she was crying bitterly, like how, I mean, a helpless woman would cry. Like that, Draupadi was crying in tears. And still, Dushashan, he didn't have any hard feelings for her. He just happened to drag her to the court. And Draupadi, she happened to ask the same question over to everybody. She said, "See, Yudhishthira, he gambled himself first. And how can he gamble me after having gambled him first? How is this possible? How this is logical?" Like that, she started to question the assembly. And then what happened now? Bhishma, he said, the question asked is very difficult. Now my mind is bewildered. He said, "You know, the person who has gambled himself has no right to gamble anyone else. At the same time, it is said that the wife always belongs to an husband." You know, there is two things here. And you know, one thing is that a person who has gambled himself doesn't have the right to gamble somebody else. And you know, at the same time, the scripture also says that a husband always belongs to the wife. So these are contradictory considerations. So I don't know, I'm confused what the solution is. Like this, Bhima was actually caught in this niyamagraha. Niyamagraha is a term that is used in Nectar of Instruction. There it is said that niyamagraha means to get caught in the technicalities of the rule without understanding the essential principle. We know this is an act of adharma. Whenever a woman is disrobed in the assembly, we know that is wrong, right? That is forbidden. And you're
Mataji, that's adharma.
Correct. So in this case, you don't understand the essential. Bhishma is not able to understand the essential principle of what the right thing should be. And he says his mind is confused. Okay. And now what happens? Vikarna, he came to the assembly and he said, "Oh, we all will be contaminated by sin if we don't answer Draupadi's question."
Mataji, who came into assembly?
So it is one of the, I think, Vikarna. Anybody know who Vikarna is?
Vikarna was like the son of one of the Kauravas.
Yeah.
No, he was one of the brothers, I think.
One of the brothers of Duryodhan?
No, I think he was he's one of the sons.
Let's so does somebody, you know, can you find out who Vikarna is?
I saw that Mahabharata. I saw but I didn't know that Vikarna was, I didn't know.
Yeah, who is Vikarna? Anybody knows?
He's one of the brothers.
He's one of the brothers of who?
Yeah,
one of Duryodhana's brothers. He is
and
Vikarna.
he's the only
good person. Yes, he is the only good brother. And that is right. And he came in the assembly and he started to say, "Are you all with me?" Vikarna, he said to the assembly, and see, we have to answer Draupadi's question. Yes.
I just looked it up. Vikarna is the third son of the Kauravas.
Wonderful. Is it Jyotsna?
Yes.
Wonderful, Jyotsna. Thank you.
Gandhari beat his worm. Does he got 100 sons?
We have only 2 more minutes to end the call. Okay, let me just otherwise we can do it later. It's just going to be very short. Do you want to listen, or we can do it next week?
Yeah, we want to hear.
Okay, so now Vikarna, he came to the assembly and he said, "See, we will all be contaminated by sin if we don't answer Draupadi's question." And then Vikarna, what did he do? "If you don't answer, then I will answer." Like that, he started to say. And then Vikarna, what did he do? He said, due to the influence of animal hunting, womanizing, gambling, and drinking, all of them lose their intelligence and they act very irrationally. So this whole gambling match, it should be cancelled. It should be annulled. It is not, because this is just wrong. and Draupadi should be restored to proper honor, and Pandavas should be restored to the kingdom. This is what Vikarna spoke. Except the Kauravas, all of them, they cheered to Vikarna and they said, yes, 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 that's what we want. And now Karna, he came into picture and he said, shut up, Vikarna. The most improper thing that is being talked about and spoken about today is what Vikarna said. Don't even worry about what Vikarna said. Nothing, it is of no value at all. Karna says, Yudhishthira's gamble voluntarily says nobody forced him to gamble. Yudhishthira, he volunteered himself and he was gambling. We didn't force him. We didn't pull him to the court and say, you gamble. He voluntarily accepted to the gamble. He was invited to the gamble. He agreed to the gamble. Nobody forced him. So he had to gamble his wife also. Nobody forced him to do it, but he did that. He has gambled everything voluntarily. So he must bear the consequence. Like that, Karna said. And so...
And Bhima came out. Then Bhima.
Yes. No, Bhima is coming into picture. And then he says, I will cut off Dushashan's hand. I will drink the blood of Dushashan. And then Duryodhana, Draupadi, you are one of my maidservants. Come here and sit on my lap now. Like that, Duryodhana is telling to Draupadi. Now Bhima, he took a vow to break the thigh of Duryodhana because he wanted Draupadi to sit on her lap, right? So he wanted to break the thigh of Duryodhana. I will kill Karna with a terrible occasion. So in the course of time, everybody were there in the assembly and they were all sitting silently without protesting to whatever had happened to Draupadi.
What did Bhima say?
Bhima, he said he is going to cut off the thigh of Duryodhana. And he also said, I will cut the Dushashan's hand because his hand was the hand that pulled Draupadi onto the assembly. And then he also said, I will drink the blood of Dushashan. So these were all some of the vows that
from the heart.
Mataji, in the gambling hall and assembly thing, everyone made lots of vows.
Correct. And then what happened? But these people, they are
Mataji.
So the
Arjuna killed Karna, not Bhima killed Karna.
So anyways, so the point here is that he, he's making these vows and he's also saying that I'm going to, you look at Drona or you look at Bhishma, they were all sitting unprotestingly. So this is the reason why Krishna says, Arjuna, you have to act against them because they are in the platform of adharma. So you have to take care of being a Kshatriya, you have to do your duty. So because, Arjuna was saying, you are Arisudana, you are not killer of enemies, but you are the killer of demons. Like that. And for that, Krishna, he happened to tell Arjuna what had happened to him and why this has to be taken care of in a serious manner. And that for that, he has to do a duty of Kshatriya. And that is why he has to fight against the elders in the situation because they are in the platform of adharma. Are you clear, kids?
Yes, but Mataji, but Bhima, he broke his hands. He broke his two hands, but he also cut the heart.
He with his hands. He didn't cut it with a sword. He just ripped his chest and drank the blood out of his chest.
But in another Mahabharata, Bhima cut only one hand.
Anyways, kids, so this is just to give you an idea why they have to fight against Bhishma. The essential principle is Arjuna has to fight against Drona and Bhishma. Are you clear? Why they have to fight?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. Now we will see from the 2.5th verse in the next class. The next class for sure I will have Kahoot. Okay. But this class, yeah, I'm so sorry I am not able to play Kahoot because this was quite a long discussion and I wanted this to be interactive.
Mataji, it's already almost like 1 hour, 1.5 hours.
So did the time feel like it was 1.5 hours?
Yeah, it was fun.
Not really.
Good. That means you like Krishna. That is how we can actually judge if you like Krishna or not. If you
I like Krishna, but I liked it.
Yeah, good. Okay, let's all pray now and adjourn for today, okay? Because there is another class. Thank you, Madhavi Mataji. Thank you for your help.
Mataji, there's another class. The craft book class tomorrow. But art class is 5 o'clock.
Okay. So let's do our prayers and adjourn for today. Okay. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhyev cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai.
Radhika Mataji ki jai.
Madhavi Mataji, thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Wonderful
Hare
class.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Okay,
Hare,
good.
Hare Ram,
Let's